It is 6 o'clock. Let me take this off so that you can hear me and make sure that this camera is working. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening for this very important conversation that we need to have. And so I'm grateful that you all have tuned in. If you are tuning in right now, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share this out. If you're listening now, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and share this out with anybody, everybody. This is a conversation that not just those people who have had COVID or who know someone who had COVID. This is for everyone, because one thing is for certain: all of us, every living, breathing organism on the planet Earth right now, we are finding out can be impacted by this virus. Your pets, everything. So please tune in, and especially for us, for our skin folk, kinfolk, black folk. And so it's 6:02. You know how this goes. Takes people a little bit of time to see this in their news feed. Takes a little bit of time for people to share it out. Takes a little bit of time for people to go to the bathroom and come back or close out something that they were doing. So we are going to be gracious, and we're going to allow people to share and come on in. But as you do, please do say hello. And so I see that we are joined by Ms. Donna Hammond. Hello, Donna. Thank you. Not only for tuning in, but for sharing your experience. Appreciate that. And it's not just that you shared it with me, but I see that you've also been sharing it on your page. And so I'm always, I just want to be respectful of and sensitive of people's personal journey. And that's a lot of the reason why I'm coming on with this, is because I have sensed and have seeing that a lot of people are not comfortable, for whatever their reasons are not comfortable talking about COVID, talking about if it's impacted their lives or not, and talking about what their experiences are. And another thing, I said one thing for certain, but another thing that's for certain is when we don't talk about our natural things that happen in our lives, when we don't share our experiences, one, we feel alone, right? And then two, other people harbor this feeling of whatever it is that they're experiencing, and it makes them hesitant to share. But when you share, I promise you this, when you share of anything that you're experiencing, especially if it's a challenge, you give people the permission. You liberate people from shame, from guilt, from ignorance. You liberate people to step out and to understand and know that there is a way forward. There's a way to do what? Move beyond the block. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to move beyond the COVID block. So I want to say again, welcome, 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 and thank you all for joining this Move Beyond the Block candid COVID conversation. Now, I had other people lined up to speak. One person who has long COVID, and I'll explain what that is later on in a few moments. But one of my guest has been experiencing long COVID, but she is also in a capacity working with the public in around violence prevention and violence situations, and she is tending to a client work emergency dealing with domestic violence. And so we have to wait for her. She is going to make her genuine effort to join us, but in the event that she does not, I'm going to share some things. So first and foremost, what I really want to share with you all is something that is helping to, I guess, exacerbate why we are facing these things. Something that's what is found is that African Americans, and African Americans, obviously American being in America, are facing more, not that we are facing more cases, but that our cases are resulting in death 5 times the rate of anyone else. Yes. So we are contracting this disease. We're 2 times as likely to get it, or close to 3 times, but Hispanic and Latino are 2.8 times higher to get this, but we are 2.6 times to get it. In American Indian, Native Americans, and those who are Alaskan American, they are also 2.8 times higher to get this virus, 1.1 times higher if you're Asian. For us to be hospitalized, we have a 4.7 times rate of being hospitalized, higher rate to be hospitalized than other ethnicities. The highest ethnicity to be hospitalized is Native American and Alaskan Native Indigenous peoples. Second highest is Black African Americans at 4.7 times higher, and followed by Hispanic and Latino, who are 4.6 times higher chances of being hospitalized, and Asians, who also are 1.3 times higher rate to be hospitalized. And in death, we are 2.1 times higher death rate, followed by Native Americans at 1.4 times higher rate for death, and Hispanic and Latino persons who are 1.1 times higher rate of death. And in Asian communities, there isn't a higher rate than death. There's not a higher percentage. Does not mean that they have not experienced any deaths. It means that it is not disproportionate to their population. These type of facts is important to know. It's important that we break this down and see what are the similarities. So we know that if we have a higher percentage rate who are actually going into hospital or whatever, then we know that there's some things that send us there, right? So many though. What I have long since brought up since March, April, my biggest concern personally, it's not a medical, it's not influenced by any medical education. I'm not a doctor. I have no studies in medicine. Let me just say that now. Whatever you hear here is simply anecdotal. It is not based on any, we are not scientists, researchers, healthcare providers, simply dissecting information that has been told to us, things that we've researched because we have tested positive and we have had symptoms, and then also just our own experiences. So please at no time take anything that is being said tonight as medical advice or medical facts or medical proven facts. And so I was stating about these instances that make us more susceptible. So some of the things that increase is you really are not the chance of you contacting or contracting COVID by standing near a person who, let's just say, is in a room with you and they're across the room, or 6 feet as everybody's saying, right? If there's space and you're not exchanging air, more than likely you have a very small chance of contracting the virus, right? Obviously, if there are barriers, that lessens the chance. And if you're not close by, well, we know that being crowded and in crowded spaces, especially in major cities, right, or especially in cities that are segregated like Chicago, and especially in cities where the density happens, right? So whether the density is in your own household where you do not have space to move about, right? Everybody, you don't have a whole big old bedroom that you can go quarantine in, or you don't have a wing of the house and your own bathroom that you can be in, or you don't have a space where the kitchen is far away from you and you have to. So many of us are living in crowded conditions, whether that be in our home or our communities, which is forcing us into spaces. So, for instance, like example, we talk about economic development and how this is a part of this whole thing. So if the only grocery store in your community is within a 20-mile radius or 15-mile radius, there's not another grocery store, full service grocery store, quality grocery store, right? If that is not in one area, then the likelihood that that store is going to be packed, especially when people are rushing out to get essentials, right? They're rushing out to find toilet tissue, they're rushing out to find, these places are going to be overcrowded, right? So that's that. Also, when you live in the same household and coming out of your room, if you have a room, right? Because we're not just talking about myself, we're talking about our community. And this is one thing that I think we need to understand, is that when we talk about our community, so often we talk only from our experience. So whatever stature we are, whatever our everyday interchanges are. But I think that the conversation really needs to be less about those of us who have more options and more choices. I think we need to be more cognizant and think of this not from our perspective, right? Not from our perspective of stay in the house, because everything you need can be delivered to your doorstep, and you have internet access, and you can call out for these things, and you can Instacart your life and Amazon your life, and work by computer to do your job, and your child can learn at a stationary space that's quiet and conducive to learning. We need to think about people who that is not the norm for. And the unfortunate thing is that so many of us, not, you know what I mean? If it's not you, that's okay. That doesn't mean that, though, that there aren't other people. And unfortunately, the reality is it's more people who cannot and do not have those options than there are those who do. So I think that's the lens we need to look into. And if we look through that lens, then it explains why, while some of us are at home, you know, living life through computers and internet and Wi-Fi, so many of us are also going out every day to be those essential workers, to be those ones who are delivering your Amazon packages, or delivering your Instacart, or in the store ringing you up, or all of those things. And also in the hospital, being your nurse, being your CNA, being the janitor, being all those things. They're more than likely, those level jobs are more than likely being done by us. So that's one of the reasons. Second thing is, obviously, as I just said, working in essential fields. If you're working in an essential field, like my husband, then you have to come home to your home environment. And your home environment, unless you're a single person with no children, your home environment is going to have other people. So even the people that work outside as essential workers have to then come back to the people that they live with and work with. Then access to health. I don't know about you all, but so there was a point in time when I could not go to, I didn't have a doctor, I didn't have any insurance. My insurance had disputed a claim that I made, and I had like surgery and some other stuff all in 1 year, right? And I had insurance. Through my husband's job, I had insurance, but for them, I had made too many claims that year. And the claims were, what do you call it? Like they were questioned, whatever you want to call it. And so I was put on hold of having access to that insurance. It took a year to get that resolved. Many people don't have insurance through their job. Many people who were let go of their job have to find independent insurance and have to navigate that. Some people are on Medicaid, and their insurance doesn't cover a whole slew of things, right? At the same time, there's some people who can't go to the doctor all the time, every time, to just prevent things and to stay in, to get a good assessment of their health, because to do that, they would have to take off work. And if they take off work, they don't get paid or can lose their job. So many issues. And obviously, all of those things impact our health. So if we have chronic health conditions, asthma, diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, so many issues that we have in our families, because of one, just because of culturally our what's, epidemiology and what's in our genetic makeup, but also the factors of our environment, stress and toxicity. And then you go to the whole point of not being able to prevent because you don't have access. It's all a big cycle. I'm saying all the stuff that everybody who's watching knows. But these are all factors, and then stress and our immune system. And it wasn't until last year that there became this whole conversation, from my point of view, that became a general conversation where people talked about their actual immune system, where it wasn't just, oh, I'm taking this so I can fight off the flu, or I can fight this off, but people who were really conscious about they're building their body's immune system up against viruses, not just COVID virus, but any virus, even the other things that give you chronic problems, like even the problems of having high blood pressure and diabetes and that sort of thing. People were not actually talking about that. So now that people are talking about it, thank God, we're finding that we haven't been as intentional about it. Lastly, there's so much stigma around COVID, and I'm not even sure how it became stigmatized. But when you look at sociology, when you look into how, it's easy to see. It's easy to see because it's easy to see because of the way this whole thing has been played out in the media, right? There's always somebody to blame for it. There's always somebody to blame for this thing, that it's someone's fault that COVID exists, and then it's someone's fault that it is being spread, instead of knowing that this is a natural human phenomenon that happens on the planet Earth. Is so many factors that go into how viruses start. And if you've been researching, and it's so many things, from conspiracy level type things all the way to very realistic things. But one thing, I say that a lot, don't I? Something that is obviously real is that viruses happen, pandemics happen. Maybe they don't happen all the time, because we get better with science, we get better with being good stewards of the earth and the universe. But there's also the humanity side, and with over how many billion people on the face of the earth, there's going to be things like this. And so the problem, though, for us is that early on it was Chinese, right? Asian. And then there was this whole thing vilifying the Asian community, and people were lumping all Asians into one category. We know that, it supposedly originated in China. Every person of Asian descent was now mocked and stigmatized. Even the person who resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue was also pushing this narrative of it about it being a China type of thing. And then you move forward as we finish hoarding the tissue and the Lysol spray and alcohol spray, right? Never saying how much we actually Donna, you check email, please, your inbox. Never saying anything about our immune system and what we should be doing for our immune system, and then talking about the disparities that we have around food, right? Food safety, food security in this country, and how so many people are deficient of how many people are deficient of the proper nutrients, proper vitamins, everything that we need. We'll talk about that. So moving past that, now we talk about with us. Why is there a stigma with us? Well, now because Black people are dying, and there's something that we're doing wrong because, everybody else is getting it. So now, for whatever reason, we're afraid to speak up if we have it. We're afraid to go get tested. We're afraid to we make this thing into something, even our social media, right? I've seen people who say, y'all don't take this seriously, or y'all ain't staying in. And it's like if somebody does get it, now they feel like, oh, they're going to say that I didn't stay in, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And there's this whole vilification, which is keeps people from sharing their experiences. Now, what are those experiences? I myself tested positive for COVID on September 30th, I believe, of 2020. I have been extremely careful, wore a mask at all times. I seldom went out. I do run a girls program. So we were doing events where we were doing food giveaways and celebrations. We kept those socially distanced. We passed out masks so everybody would be covered. And every time I did that, I went and got tested within a day or two after being out. And also had other people testing, right? My son was testing several times as well, even though he never really left the house, and he was being very careful. My husband works as an essential worker, and so my husband had to leave out every single day. In the beginning, he did take off maybe 3 weeks that he could take off comfortably, and then when he had to return to work, he did. That was in April when he returned to work. And so all through September, we did travel. At the beginning of September, we traveled to Colorado. Again, mask, everything that we needed to stay safe and not contract or give the disease. We practiced those things. Socially distanced, kept our mask on, right? On the airplane, it was nobody sat in the row in front of us, nor the row behind us, and nobody sat in the middle seat of us. And when we got to Colorado, we were mostly in the mountains, away from people, still being masked up. And so those things didn't expose us to COVID. What our situation was that, let me give other examples. So my husband is an essential worker. What other examples? My daughter also is an essential worker. Our home, we own a 2-flat building, and we live in one of the units. So we don't have a huge house, even though we have a lot of space from attic, basement, and all in between. But our living quarters are not where we're just like, go to this part of the house and you won't see or hear anybody, right? And so our bedroom is off of our kitchen. There's one bathroom in our unit, so we all have to share this bathroom. We all share the same kitchen. And so my husband is also a DJ. My husband had been DJing virtually all last year. Thank God. We were very grateful for that his business had not been interrupted too much, and in fact had been opened up, and new opportunities had happened. But then he did have a party towards the end of September, and if you contract this virus, and can very easily trace back to where it happened. So we can safely say that because of the time frame that it takes, and I'll get into that more, because of the time frame that it takes when when the virus is active and you can actually spread it, you can kind of know, well, in these amount of days, where have I been and who have I been around? And in most cases, the symptoms are going to happen rapidly from the point of contraction to symptoms. For many, that not all people, because so many people are asymptomatic. They don't show any symptoms whatsoever, right? So it can vary. So for me, my example is my husband had a gig. I can't remember if it was a party, wedding, or whatever, birthday party, wedding, whatever. But in this space, it's something that I also observed from another wedding that I attended with him, where I saw that even though he was at a distance from the party, the people that had him where had and to set him to the side where he'd be far away from people, right? From the party, the people who were attending. There are people who will still come up to the DJ and ask to speak on the mic, right? And we're speaking, talking. We know that when you're talking, you are spreading. If you have it and you don't have on a mask, you are spreading the virus, right? People are coming up, not just grabbing a mic, but saying, "Hey man, can you play?" And he's like, "What?" Because music is playing. So you're like, "What are you saying?" And "Can you play?" And you, right? And if you don't have on a mask and they don't have on a mask, if you take your mask down, some of us are wearing our mask halfway over here, and we're taking it down, and it's right here. Any hole, anywhere that the virus can get through, it's going to go through. Okay, so and we're talking on this day. We talk because he calls me from this event and says, "Man, these people in here, they not practicing no kind of social distance. They ain't being safe at all. God, I can't wait. This place giving me the heebie-jeebies." Like, he was nervous doing that. So we remember that day. Within 2 days, he started feeling sick. Now, because of what's been in the media, what happens if you have COVID, I'm just looking at, can he breathe? How's he sounding when he breathes, right? I'm looking at, do I got to rush him to the hospital, right? And when that doesn't happen and he's like shaking it off a little bit, I'm like, oh, okay, he good. He not. But then 4 days later, now we sleeping in the same room and in the same bedroom. But 4 days later, and I remember us having a conversation where we were like this, 2 days after that, no, 1 day after that, I feel it in my joints, my bones. I feel this, I don't even know the word for it. I'm like, is this arthritis? Because it was in my bones, the pain. Then the pain, I just started feeling very sleepy. I mean, extremely sleepy and exhausted, where I couldn't stay up. So it was about 8:30 when I noticed this. And I started feeling, a little body aches all over, and I went to lay down. And as the night progressed, my symptoms got worse. I started feeling, I didn't have a fever, but I felt hot, like I just wanted to sleep, and I was hot and cold at the same time. I just wanted to be in the covers, and I slept for the next day, the whole entire day. And my nose was running that first night along with that. And then I had a slight cough, not a cough like something was coming out, but just a cough. The next day, the cough was gone. The next day, the bone pain was gone, but the exhaustion was getting worse. And by the third day, the first day, I noticed it at night. Second day, I slept the whole day. Third day, I'm now waking up with a headache that I've never felt in my life. And I get headaches regularly as a part of my menstrual cycle. Sometimes I would get a migraine headache as a part of my PMS. But this was no menstrual headache. This was no, I didn't eat yet headache. This was no, I'm stressed headache. This is a headache I have never felt in my life. And so we went and we got tested, and the results came back the next day that said positive, but I didn't need those results because the next day on Wednesday, I woke up and I was eating something and I realized I didn't taste my food. And then I smelt and I couldn't smell my food. And because I had a friend who was experiencing the same thing, I said, okay, I won't panic. I know what this is. But I did start panicking when I do something every day. I like incense, or I like my energetic wood, and I couldn't tell. I couldn't smell it. And that's scary when you can't smell fire, because we take for granted our sense of smell as a part of our defense, our body's defense. And so that's how it went. And that was the worst symptom that I had, was the loss of smell. I I won't even say that that's the worst. The other part of it, and with my sense of smell, I should also say, and my guest is on, so we'll be bringing her on in a second. But another part of my loss of smell was I felt in those 2 or 3 days, I had been feeling the sensation of being underwater when water goes up your nose. I've been feeling that sensation. And then the headache, which was encroaching parts of my head, not all over, but just like parts of my head. And it was like I could feel it moving around my head. So loss of smell and taste, but then this kind of vertigo and this disorientation and brain fog, meaning I'm talking and I'm a talker. If you know me, I talk. And meaning that I could not find words to express or articulate. I knew what I wanted to say in my head, but I couldn't find the words. I couldn't make the connection. And that part got very scary. It was almost like if you've ever been around somebody who's suffered a stroke. It was almost like that, where I couldn't, my word association was completely off. And I would veer off into other thoughts in the middle of a sentence and couldn't finish it. And that had me scared. And I learned since then that is a part of long COVID. And so I'm going to bring on my sister friend, Nicole Muhammad, who is someone who was one of the earliest people who had experienced COVID. Hey, sis.
Sorry. Hey, good evening.
Good evening. First, I just want to say that I'm praying and we sending all the love and energy to your client. We want to make sure that we do that. I think it's important. That's another conversation that we need to have about violence and domestic violence. Yes. So I've been telling people just about the various ways that we can contract and sharing a little bit of my personal symptoms and my journey. But because you, Nicole, have been someone living with COVID for, I think you were one of the first waves of people in Chicago, I kind of want you to share what that experience was like. And you're still experiencing some battling. And so I want you to talk about that. People are calling it long COVID is the term that the doctors are using. So Nicole, share a little bit about what that is like for you.
Alrighty. So in March, the early part of March, I started feeling kind of funny. And at first it was just kind of like very fatigued. I had this really bad headache that felt like my head was in a vice. And somebody was trying to pull my head off of my body. Around probably like the second week of March, I put on Facebook, has anybody having a problem, like losing their taste of smell? And at that time, there were no such symptoms on the list. And every medical person was ignoring them, CDC, because they didn't say it didn't exist. So, but anyway, I had mild symptoms on other levels. Like, so I got a COVID rash that is almost 100% done. Now, remember I said I got this in March, right? So I got a COVID rash on the side of my body. And of course, you turn into a little scientist after you get this, because you really want to understand, which is before I can get into the rest of the story, I want to say that people need to understand the short and long-term consequences of a disease, right? What are the things that are happening behind the scenes when they have talked about on the news and research how they have found damage in people's lungs, in their heart, blood vessels have a problem, people are clotting. There are all these different issues that are happening behind the scenes. People are losing their hair. I'm so sorry. People are losing, they're going into paralysis, and they're having all of these issues that aren't really being exposed on the news. So people are thinking that, if you're not hitting this particular group of symptoms,
Check
then
it.
you're good, right? Okay. So anyway, backtrack. I had the red eyes for a couple of days. I started having the chest pressure. I never had a fever.
Mhm.
Then I started having, I had the chest pressure. Then once that went away, I had the cough. And so I had the cough, I had the shortness of breath for maybe about the first month, month and a half. Then after that, I started developing this very, very thick mucus, so
Mhm.
thick that I had to go in my mouth to try to help pull it out because it would get like lodged. So then you can understand how individuals who have this pneumonia style type of COVID,
That's why I had the.
how they are experiencing this, right? So I went through that for a while, and I lost my, like I said, I lost my taste and smell. Um, so fast forward, because I had an issue getting tested, I just was having all of these issues that nobody was really recognizing. Then finally the stuff came out. I was able to get tested, and my viral load was so high that I was unable to shed the virus as quickly as some people would think that you do. So that
Mhm.
whole 14 days you good,
Mhm.
whatever, it's the spectrum is so wide and big that you can't think that your experience is going to be like the next person. So remember, I
Mhm.
got sick in March. I didn't get a
Mhm.
negative until the first week of June. Here we are in, what's this, the almost the end of November, and I don't have, my taste and smell is not at 100%. It's way better than it was, but it fluctuates some days. My headaches, I used to have 7 days a week. I'm now down to like 2 days a week. My rash is almost gone on my side, so that's probably about 98% healed. You can still feel like the little bumps from, and people, can look that up and like what that means. Because here's the thing, like I said, when things show up on the outside, it's something impacting you on the inside.
Mhm.
And what are the long-term effects of that? Um, so what else? And I still have the phlegm. Now it's just in the morning. So I
Mhm.
have to hawk up, and it's very thick. It's kind of the thickness to it, what I would describe as almost like that glue that had the brush,
Mm.
that once it got really hard and thick, you
Rubber,
almost turn
rubber.
it into a ball. Right.
Mhm.
And maybe just even a little bit thicker. So, and you have people, like I said, that one moment, like, it's unfortunate for me, especially for our community, that when you look at the news and you see the young white woman who was fine on Saturday, didn't feel good on Monday, died on Tuesday,
Mhm.
right? We got the news on that and have
Mhm.
for a few days now. And there are
Mhm.
cases like that all over the place. I have people that I know who was fine on one day and now they're learning to walk again. Or people who have had strokes because of this, because of the blood clotting effect of it, because of the protein, right? The fact that there are different strains of this particular disease, that they now have on record individuals who had the virus before who now have a different type of it now,
Mhm.
right? Few, but because it exists, it does. And the fact that what's maybe here in Chicago is not maybe in Colorado, or maybe not the same in Las Vegas, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I want people to understand that you're playing Russian roulette if you don't take it seriously. And that they also have come out with studies about the fact that if you're asymptomatic, the concern that they have is that individuals that may be asymptomatic, they may not have had any outward symptoms right now, but they are stating that based upon the impact of this disease, that within a few years, they may start to see the internal things that were going on that they didn't have before. Remember, I said I did not have a fever,
Mhm.
right? So when people come out with the thermometer, I appreciate that,
But it ain't go. Mhm.
but it doesn't cover the whole thing because everybody doesn't get a fever,
Yeah.
you know.
So let me do this. So we have another Chicagoan who also has been living with COVID, and I want to talk to her because I want to ask you and her both this question.
Mhm.
I and I have to be respectful of our partners and our spouses who may or may not want to share their stories and their experiences. But my husband is was the one who had it first, and then gave it. We caught it from him, and so I want Donna to come on because I just want you all to talk about how it's impacted your family, your household. And when you said if we don't take it seriously, well, I don't know anybody who has been as serious and vigilant about COVID precautions than the person who's going to come on with us now. And yet, and still, she still contracted this virus. So, oh, there she is. Hey, Donna.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Excuse my look. I look a mess.
Listen,
It's self-care day today.
listen. I don't know what you see, but I don't know what you see, but what we see is the fabulous glasses frames.
Yes. Love
You
it.
see the hair going.
See you, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll see whatever you talking about. We see God and some excellence. So
I thank God. I tell you that much.
yes,
This has been an experience for us. You know,
yeah.
Keisha, I sat and listened to you talking about Barry and what he's doing. My husband also is a he goes to work every day, essential. And I can't tell you how much I've been cautious, because I was so cautious in the beginning that when we had the primary election in March, and I have a girlfriend who works in the industry, so she had been letting me know about the shutdowns that were occurring before we even got word. This is my husband back there. He's going to join us as well. And so she had let me know. So I'll go to the voting, I go and vote. I go into the office and I walk into my boss's office. I said, let me tell you something. This is my last day. That's the way I was like, you know what? I'm asthmatic, hypertension. If I get COVID, I know I'm going to die. That was the way I approached that. So I need to go home and need to work from home as of today. So I packed up my things and I left work. They asked me, is there anything you need us to bring you while you're home? Nope, let me figure it out once I get there. So from March, we shut it down. It was 3 weeks before I decided to leave the house and go just drive for some gas, because I was getting totally depressed in the house. That's how much I stayed home. Ron, on the other hand, is going to work, coming home. He's taking precaution when he gets here. We're washing stuff down, doing all of what we were told to do. And so I said to him, if that COVID comes here, I know it's going to be because of your work. And I'm not blaming him for that, at all, because he did what he was supposed to do. But it happened. So we had painters here in our condominium that particular week that we got sick. I will also say this. My husband was diagnosed in July with prostate cancer. The day that I took ill was the day he went for the COVID test in preparation for the surgery that Friday.
Wow.
So we had painters here painting the second day, and all of a sudden I'm sitting up at my computer and I'm working, and all of a sudden my head started hurting. But here's the other thing. The day before that, he had put together my desk in my office, and I gave him a hug. That was the hug that did. Because we hadn't been touched. We were very, I'm hey, mwah, and that's it. I gave him a hug and said, oh, thank you, honey, for, the next day I got sick. And he was asymptomatic in the beginning. So that Wednesday, I shut the painting job down. I told the guys, I'm not feeling well. And ironically, one of the painters, the lead guy who we hired, his back went out that day. So I said, you know what, Mike, go ahead and do your thing. We're shutting it down. I'm just not feeling well. So they left, and that night the headache came and I started getting chills, and my temp went up to 100, over 103. I could not believe it. It was so fast. And I felt like I was in a fog and I couldn't stand up. I couldn't focus. I could barely make it to the bathroom. I didn't even want to get up and go to the bathroom, because I knew once I come out of that cover, I was going to be, I was just shivering just the entire time. So I felt like crap. So Ron has his test. The next morning he comes in and he wakes me up and he says, they just told me, he said, well, I'm asymptomatic. And I looked up, I said, what do you mean? Do you have COVID? He said, yes. I'm like, oh my God. I said, well, I have to call my doctor, because if you have it, I know that's what it is with me. Mind you, he's supposed to go report to the hospital the next day, so they canceled his surgery.
Yeah.
I called my doctor's office. They scheduled me for a test that Friday. I didn't want him taking me out because now he's got to quarantine. So Daniel comes and picks me up. My son comes and gets me. I went to get in the front seat of the car. He said, no. I said, well, I'm wearing my mask. He said, I don't care. You get in the back.
Now we can laugh at that, but that is that's a feeling that makes you. I think that's another part of the stigma, right? Because
Yeah.
when my son
was like, oh no, I love
my
you.
son was like, y'all stay in y'all room, like the way you are treated. People,
It's like you have leprosy.
people
Yes,
when
exactly.
they're
He was
like,
like,
oh
no. He said,
yeah.
Mama, I know you got a mask. I got one too, but I really need you to be in the back seat.
Yeah.
So I obliged. I respected that, and he was very kind and very, relaxed and real cool. Went and had this quick test at Rush. They had me in there and out. Next morning, I log into my chart, COVID. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, after that, the one thing I can tell you is this: our friends and my son. I can't speak on the other one, but my son Daniel. Everybody, what do you need? Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, we couldn't open the door. We were in a condo on the second floor. They had to bring stuff to the door and leave. Mm-hmm. But we didn't have to worry about food. They brought Lysol, wipes, and we had everything we needed. My medication. People were coming and dropping. People still dropping our food the other day. Now we're cooking now, But Ron, he started getting sick with, we both lost our sense of taste and smell. Mm. But his body, the pain, he could not, but he could barely walk. That's how bad it was with him. He had the worst joint pain and back and all of it. So we were in no shape to help each other. We couldn't do anything for one another. All we could do was sleep. That was it. It was the sleep. But I tell you all, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to tell you what happened with me, the way my mindset was. Because the first thing I knew, if I go to the hospital, they're going to admit me to the hospital immediately. I know this was going to happen. I refused to go to the hospital because I didn't think I was going to make it in the hospital. 64 years old, and they're sacrificing folks, and we're the group that they're sacrificing, and they're sacrificing older people for these younger people. So I laid down, and as I'm hurting and my head is hurting, all I started doing was praying I prayed to the ancestors and God to please just be with me and help me to breathe. Mm-hmm. The other thing I did, because I had seen all these different conversations about COVID, I went and sat in a steam bathroom. So I turned the water on, hot as I could get it, in my shower, and I sat in that. And that's what helped my lungs. That helped me. I didn't have problems with breathing. The first week or so, maybe going into the third week, I started having problems breathing. But my doctors, they immediately got me prednisone, but I ended up not being in class because, like you, Nicole, I had that brain fog. I couldn't. Was that you or Keisha? I could not think straight. I didn't know. I don't even barely knew what day it was. Words would not come up and out. I would forget things, and I'm in grad school and working. There's no way in the world I can go to school, and so I'd let them know. Listen, to keep up with a class that's 3 hours long in a night, I can't do it. There's no way. I have to go to bed. The fatigue is still there. I'm still having problems with fatigue. But the cough that I had was so bad, it's gone. Thank the Lord. It's now. Last week, the doctor told me, he said, within maybe next week, you'll be gone. It'll be out, and it's gone. So the only thing that I'm experiencing now is fatigue and a little bit of the brain fog still. I'm still having problems. Like I can be talking and I'll blank out, like, what was that word I was trying to, I totally just like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. And I
So
don't know about you, Don, but for me, that was the scariest of my symptoms.
yes,
Like
yes.
losing my sense of taste and smell. My husband was like, I would be going crazy if that was me. Something that didn't scare me. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was faulty with my words, I'm not thinking about this moment, right? I'm thinking I know that this is what this is, but I'm thinking about 60-year-old me, 70-year-old me. Is this impacting my brain? Because you're not having brain fog with nothing left on your brain. Something's
Correct.
happening to your brain.
Correct.
So
Correct.
will this be an early onset of
Of
dementia?
Alzheimer's, right? Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
thinking of long term, and that's scaring the heck out of me, right? Um, I heard you mention about friends and family and support. I want to say this too, because we laugh now at the way that we're treated with, like we have leprosy, and it's real because we understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want us to get over the stigma of COVID. COVID is a virus. The flu is the virus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whooping cough is a virus. These are all viruses, and I want to share some numbers with people about the flu from 2019 to 2020. 2020, according to CDC, 22,000 people have died of the flu. 405,000 people have been seriously ill enough that they needed to be hospitalized. 18 million people visited their doctor or the ER from complications of the flu.
Mm.
This is happening as there is a flu vaccine.
Correct.
So I
Correct.
want people to understand that while they hear death, and that is a very real, and nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to, but we have to understand that there's a way to take something seriously and be cautious of it, but not allow it to have this fear over you when you're living with other very real and present things that are also causing death and
Yes.
illness. Flu is one of them, and we go out every year amongst people coughing and sneezing all over the place. I thank God that something has happened to make people more aware of sneezing and not wiping their hands on stuff, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, so this is probably just a wake-up call for us as in our earth, just to see even the animals' response to this thing. When we shut down in March, the animals were able to really fully be themselves in nature,
And they
right?
were. That's correct. That's
So
correct.
much of
They
course
were.
correction. I think this comes about to help us see where we need to course correct even our immune system. And as we talk about immune system, Nicole, tell me what helped you. What did you use to help your body release and fight this thing?
So, man, we was over here for real, doing some real serious stuff. So, I
First,
did
how did you keep your families? How did you keep everybody else around you safe?
well, you know, because I couldn't get a test and I started getting sick in early March, we were just up in here, right? And so my husband didn't get a test until I went in May, and he was negative. He was sick early in February, though, very sick with some of these
Mm.
same kinds of symptoms. Um, and then my son, he got sick, but again, he didn't get tested young. He woke up, head was hurting, very fatigued, you know, went to work, couldn't stay because he was so tired. And just came on home and took, like, I think that day and the next day off, and then it was the weekend and he kept it
Mm.
moving. My daughter, we went and picked her up from school because of course school was closing, brought her in. She got sick for a couple of days, but she didn't get tested either. But in the meantime, we amped up on vitamin D. We amped up on vitamin C. We did sea moss and bladderwrack. A lot of hot liquids.
Yep.
Started eating, like, very, like, super duper clean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also kind of doing detoxing, making sure we were eliminating, stuff out of our body, drinking a lot of water. And I did the steam. I did, over the steam, because the only time that I would smell anything and faintly smelling anything was as soon as I got out the hot shower. and it would just be just long enough for me to dry off and lotion up. And by the time I got downstairs, it was gone again. And then it would be if I was over the pot where I had like aroma of thieves and the lemon and orange and all. I was trying everything. So that was what we did around here.
Yeah.
Donna, what were some of the things that helped you to fight it off?
Yeah, so the doctor told me to make sure I get plenty of liquids, water, tea. I did a lot of tea, a lot of broth, like I said, the steam, and I have since then the vitamin D. That's another thing I wanted to bring to us this conversation. Africans in diaspora, African Americans have been notorious for vitamin D deficiency anyway. I am one of those people who has to have 5,000 units, of vitamin D. I get the blood test, and every single time I go for those blood tests, I come back and I have to be on the pill once a week for 8 weeks, every single time. And so that, our immune systems are compromised, with that vitamin D deficiency. Our immune systems are already compromised. And the patients that they're seeing in the hospital, particularly in the Black community, the majority of those patients have vitamin D deficiencies who are tested positive for COVID. So it would behoove us, because this COVID hits people of color more than it does, the other race or groups of people. It would definitely behoove us to be intentional about getting vitamins in, getting our nutrients, and vitamins. And like you said, eat cleaner, and so because, hold on one second, I got to plug up my iPad. Okay. Because we are running a risk of our immune systems being broken down, because this virus, it attaches. It's an airborne virus. It feeds on your body. I mean, this thing is like, look, I'm mutating. I'm going to get in here, and it affects the breathing, the lungs. It affects all of that. So we know this to be true. So what we have to do is be more intentional about that. And Nicole, thank God that your family wasn't, I believe they could have had COVID. Daniel made a comment to me in the car. He felt that he had COVID back in March, but at that time they weren't testing people. I would also suggest maybe you get a test for antibodies to see, because they have that. Yeah, the test.
I did.
So did that come back that you had the antibodies for it?
So I got the test for antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
I was the only person that got the antibodies test. So yes, it did come back. Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to say this, that I let my doctor go, and I sought out another doctor.
Oh wow!
Because her response was so I don't know the word. Sometimes when you don't know, some people become evasive or aloof or whatever, right? But at this time, every single person in the medical field was a student, and she was not eager to learn. When I finally found some place to get tested, I called to let her know, because I had done 2 telehealth things with her while we were waiting. But at that time, nobody was taking anybody with, if they weren't ventilator ready.
Yeah.
So when I called just to let her nurse know that I tested positive on purpose, I didn't tell her my numbers. I didn't get a call back for 2 weeks.
Hey, Dan.
And I called and I told her nurse, unacceptable that at a time when nobody knows anything about this, that you didn't even call to even tell me or ask, like, was I still experiencing any symptoms, anything that you would have known remotely close to try to help me resolve some of the issues. I wound up going on Twitter. I found 4 doctors that do not know me. I'm not their patient. They live in other states, and they assisted me. A taste and smell director of a clinic at the University of Florida gave me a recommendation of what to do to rehabilitate my taste and smell.
Wow.
Right? Other doctors were giving me tidbits just on the symptoms, not so much that they understood the virus. Right? So I had to let her go. So you have to take, if your relationship with your doctor isn't even at a point where they want to be a student.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, you got to let them go, because
Mhm.
this thing, I'm so serious. People really I'm concerned about the long-term effects of people. There are so many stories of horrible things that people are experiencing, after
Yep.
this, not being able to walk, having strokes,
Yep.
having
Hard.
seizures,
Yep.
not
Hard.
being able to continue their sports, having to quit their jobs because, and these things are not yet listed on the disabilities where people would be able to get this, some
Yeah.
type of compensation or be excused for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not covered.
Yeah.
So
And
it's something that another part of things that people have to fight for is what's going to happen. It's kind of almost what happened after 9/11 when you had all those first
Mhm.
responders begin
Right.
to get ill.
The
You know,
one other thing I was going to say, Keisha, to your audience, for anyone who is working, is actually working, their job in the midst of all of this, and they or a family member in their same household is diagnosed with COVID, they have to, and if they're going into the office or not, you have to quarantine. So if anybody's in your house, that's automatic quarantine for you as well. Not only is it for the patient, but for you as well, because you're in the household.
Mhm.
And the government has given this money to businesses and organizations that pay salaries of people who are still working. Those people who are not laid off, whatever. They pay 10 days of what they call families first.
Mhm.
So that was the other thing. I was paid through, the 2 weeks that I was off from work, I was
Mhm.
paid through that particular piece of money rather than having to pull down my sick time on
Mhm.
vacation or whatever. But when my husband was diagnosed, that's when my time kicked in for 10 days. And so I wanted to make sure, I think that that's important as well, that you have benefits through your businesses if you're still working. That only affects people. That is only for people who are still working and not laid off. For instance, if you're laid off or furloughed or whatever, that doesn't, and you get COVID, that's not for you. That's only for people who are still working. So I
Yes.
wanted to also give that information as well. So I didn't have to, hit my vacation time. I didn't have to, take sick time or anything like that while I was out. But well, it was 10 days, but I was out for 14 days really. But yeah,
And
I wanted to
anyway,
do that.
that, like if your HR is not telling you these things, this is something you should know
Yep.
and go in and ask questions to say
Yeah.
like what is happening, especially as we go into this season where flu and all kinds of viruses are. We don't even know what the connection is to flu. It could be a connection. It could be a
Yeah.
strain that we just don't know. And so my thing is, if you leave out of your house at all for any reason, you
Mm-hmm.
are susceptible to getting this virus. And not, when I say you, I mean if anybody comes and goes from your
Your
household,
house. Yeah.
there is a chance that you will get this virus. That's
And
it. That's all.
someone,
And there's no way to not leave your house. It's just not possible.
no.
You have to buy groceries. At some point in time you're gonna leave. So these are the things you should be aware of. So one, you can kind of take the precautions you need, but then two, to not be afraid like you're the only person that this is happening to or can happen to.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you talked about, the antibodies and taking the test, Nicole, because I want to talk about plasma and donating plasma and what the importance of that is. But before we go there, I want to ask, do you ladies know your blood type?
Yes.
So my
Yeah.
blood type is O. Donna,
Mine is A negative.
A negative, and Nicole.
okay, can I tell you? Go ahead, just beat me over the head, right? It's somewhere around this house, and I don't know. I
That's
don't know.
why I have
It's
to go
somewhere
back
around.
to my medical
I got
record.
it. I got it done when we were dealing with something with my daughter. And I should just remember that one letter, right? But I don't.
But
So
so I only know mine because of my annual test from a few years back when I hit 40, and she did this battery of tests, and I get it confused sometimes. So I just go on my patient portal online. That's the only reason
Yeah.
why.
Well,
So
it's important to know.
but I
It's
wonder,
very important to know your blood type. Very important.
and Donna, you said you're what's
A
your
negative. A
A
negative.
negative?
So yeah. So and with my blood type, that is another, that it's not a rare blood type. It's just a blood type that doesn't have, you have to have certain antigens and antibodies. Like they just can't give me just any blood if I had to have blood, for instance. There are certain antigens that have to be in that blood for me to get a donation. So, for instance, when I was at Rush, I had to have surgery. I had to actually donate my blood for me so that they would have some blood for me in case I needed that after surgery. Because it's hard to match my blood type, with blood from the blood banks and the like. So, and it's a whole lot of stuff going on. But I know that blood type also, your blood type is also a factor in this COVID situation. It's also a factor. So there are a lot of things that have happened, and most of this stuff, once again, it goes back to us, Black people. That's why we're being affected by it so much.
Yes, that's a study that I know that at first they were saying AB is more likely to test positive. If you have O, then the chances are slim, but I'm O and I have tested positive. So I want us to know what our blood type is. So when you get it, you write down every symptom you have. What your blood type is. This helps. When we talk about this vaccine and how we don't want to get it, we know what the medical industry has done to our communities. But when we can take control and when we can be a part of research and a part of guiding and directing it, it helps us all. So when we can say, here's my plasma, study it. Study it so when you need to have this vaccine, you're using the plasma of somebody who's had COVID or whatever.
Right.
Nicole, have you found any places to donate plasma, and in your study about the antigens and stuff like that?
I have not. I haven't studied that. I've been busy studying. Let me tell you, I have not. That's to answer your question. I've been busy studying, like, how long my little antibodies is going to work, right? Like, yes, I look at that and
now
I've been, looking.
How long?
Right? How long? Like,
3
so
months.
they're saying 5. So
3 to
some
5
places
months.
say 2 to 3, and some people say 5 to 7, right?
Yeah.
But either way it go, like,
it's a short
I'm in 5 going into 7 by January, right? And so, I don't know. That's what I've been looking at. I had not been looking at the plasma. I had been looking at everything else except that.
So for those of you who are watching and you have not shared your experience, or you don't feel comfortable doing so, while you may not share with the public, I do implore you to please contact blood drives and those people. There's AC Green. I'm going to contact him because he has a young woman, a Black woman, who is doing plasma drives for COVID specifically. And I'm going to reach out and I'll share that information later. But we need to be a part of science. We need to be giving our plasma. We need to be telling our experiences as much as we possibly can. And when someone contacts you about COVID or COVID tracing, and if you've been around somebody, it's okay. My husband and I had done so much that weekend. We went, I won't say much, but he did a gig. He did maybe 2 gigs after that thing. We went to a conceal and carry class, and we could have been shamed and felt like, oh, I don't want to share because we don't think we got the cooties. But if we didn't share that with all of those 15 people who were in our class with us, then the potential for them to give it to somebody, it's not fair. It's not right. So please don't hold it in. It's like when you get the flu, you're not scared to say I got the flu. You're not scared to say I got pneumonia. You don't say I broke my foot, and I'm like, there is no, if people are, then you give them that shame back. There is no shame in contracting a virus, especially when you've done all you can to be to help. Another question that I was going to ask, so I was going to share what I did to kind of bounce back, and I think I did fairly quickly. I mean, my symptoms lasted for a week, and the brain fog and vertigo lasted maybe 3 weeks most. I never went to my doctor. I did call her and say, I tested positive. And she took down whatever symptoms I had and, told me to get worse, whatever. But me knowing, like Donna said, if it gets to the point you're going to the hospital, ain't nothing your doctor can do for you, and you're not going to her office. So I didn't go to her. What I did is I have a friend who is a herbologist and a naturopath, and immediately when I first even told her that I had these symptoms, when I felt it in my bones, the next day she sent a care package over which had garlic, hibiscus tea leaves, oregano tea leaves. I think that was initially what she did. And then when I lost my sense of smell, she sent ionic lava salt, black salt, a horseradish mix. This is to stimulate my nerves for my smell and my sense of taste. So when I couldn't smell at all, I took advantage of that so that I would just eat chunks and chunks of garlic, like, because I couldn't smell it, I couldn't taste it. So I did that. I don't drink milk. I can't tolerate any kind of milk. You can call it whatever you want. I can't. Something about it I can't do. So while I couldn't smell, I made the golden milk of turmeric, coconut milk, cinnamon. I made that at night, and coconut oil. I made that at night, and I warmed it up and drank it all down. I couldn't taste it, so I do believe that the horseradish mix and the garlic is what helped to stimulate my smell. Because like you, Nicole, I would, like I said, I burned my energy. She also gave me energetic wood. I have energy rug that I use constantly, all green and soup. And hot tea with lemon, with garlic, with turmeric, with ginger, with pepper, and then dates, because dates give you all the nutrients that you need in one date. So I was prescribed to eat 3 dates a day, with 20 minutes between before I ate something before or after. So I would wake up in the morning, I would eat 1 date. In the middle of the day, I would eat a date, and at night I would eat a date. And that's to provide me with all the vitamins that I needed. So I didn't have to really eat, so that my body could like detox and cleanse itself. I didn't do anything with sugar. So nothing that has sugar in it besides fruit and vegetables. I didn't eat sugar because I was trying to avoid any mucus being produced in my body. No eggs, nothing like that. Mostly raw and green. But it gets to a point, y'all, when you like, oh my God. It gets to a point where you don't want to eat another thing of garlic. Like, what else is there to eat? What are the other options to eat? But I have to tell you that no having sense of smell and taste, I think, is the blessing for me, because that allowed me to just put everything that doesn't taste appealing, everything that smells bad, it just allowed me to put it in my body double time. Right. I will say that we must. I don't care if they find a vaccine for this disease tomorrow. I don't care if every disease off the face of the earth is a vaccine is for it. The things that we as Black people experience, we must have a strong immune system, because that's the other part of diabetes. That's the other part of high blood pressure. That's the other part of all of these other things. And thank God, I'm a person who believes that everything happens for a reason, and it's a lesson for everything, and that God sends us what we think is painful or hurtful to give us what we need to be enlightened. So I say COVID is the opportunity for us to do more microgreens, right? More bean sprouts, more wheatgrass, more all of those things. It's more of a chance for us to start taking sea moss, bladderwrack, elderberry. I've been taking elderberry for 2 years now. Thank God more people are finding out. Echinacea. All of this stuff should be a part of what we do. Fire cider. You make fire cider out of horseradish, jalapeno peppers, lime, lemon, oranges, garlic, red onion, honey, and apple cider, and you let it sit for 6 weeks. And then after it sits, you pour the liquid off, and you drink a teaspoon of that every single day. And that will also give you your nutrients. It'll clear you out. It'll do everything. There's so many natural, huh?
So can I say this to you, sis? What it sounds like to me is this is another extension of moving beyond the block, right? Because this is the move beyond
Yes.
the block on the health tip.
Yes.
Because so think about that. You know, I'm always trying
You know,
to tell you that
Listen,
go
know,
ahead and
tell
have
you.
an extension because this is
Yeah.
real. You know, some of us unfortunately have these stereotypical views of herbs and just all of these really crazy ideas about and just many things that we have never heard of. And as easily as you can look up anything on Google, we just don't always use it for the things that could save us. So people could be Googling sea moss or Googling, you know, the hibiscus tea or Googling and the benefits of it and how it could replace, you know, some of those things that you're taking and do better for your body than something that you take that adds another problem to your body. So this to me is another extension of moving beyond the block, and it's just about our health and the way we think and the paradigm shift that this has created, saving ourselves because you know, unfortunately, we're not at the top of, you know, I don't care who gets elected.
Exactly. You better
It's
say
over
that.
and over again. We have seen that we are at the top of all of the numbers, of all the pre-existing conditions, of all of the issues that cause us to fall by the wayside. And there's so many things that we have to help each other be educated on. So I see it. Go ahead.
Okay, overflow.
I agree. I certainly agree with that, Nicole. I think that because Lakeisha, it's obvious you have done your homework, and it's obvious your homework is an indication of your experience. So, you know, you've experienced this, but you've also looked into it. See, a lot of us get sick and we don't want to know about the reasons why we're sick. You know, all we want to do is go to the doctor, get that pill, and go on about our business. I'm not that, you know, I mean, I know if I have hypertension, I have to take, you know, a blood pressure pill, for instance. I don't want to, but then it's up to me to turn around and reset. One of the things that I said about this year in particular, and because I really believe, I'm telling you, in my heart and in my mind, it's been revealed to me, and I know it's going to happen. We were supposed to be exactly where we are with everything that has gone on in this country, all of the mishaps, all of the negative, all of that, because we needed a reset. We needed to be corrected, if you will. There is a correction and a refocus on what the true reality is. Now, unfortunately, and I'm saying that as it relates to the murders of the Black bodies that we've experienced over the last couple of years, particularly this crazy person that we have in office as a president in particular, and how we see that he is not for us or by us. But there is a shift that is happening in this country. And the crazy thing is that white folks are now seeing our reality in this year. And I really believe that COVID had to happen because people had to be exposed. Stuff had to be exposed. And I think that, you know, the unfortunate thing is there's always going to be a martyr, or there's always going to be a sacrificial lamb, if you will, when things change and move to something better or different. And I lost a 94-year-old aunt. Somebody walked into her house. You know, she and her daughter got COVID about a month and a half ago, and she was the last of her siblings. And they came in there and gave her COVID, and she passed away. You know, and so when I think about that, I've lost several people to COVID. I know people who have had it. When I posted on Facebook, Keisha, when I mentioned about my husband and I got like 5 people hit my inbox, not saying I'm there. They hit my inbox with a "me too." That was the hashtag for COVID, "me too."
Yep.
That's
and it's funny, Donna.
Huh?
It's funny because before that, before you say it, nobody says.
Nope.
Nobody says it. And I knew I had to tell people. Something just wouldn't let me not say it. I had to share, like, this is my experience. And I really wanted it to be about the death, the fear of death that we have been associating with this. And I wanted us to stop walking in the fear, but I also wanted us to understand that because people are not dying the way that the media is portraying, I guess people are dying, but because that's not the predominant case, people are living with this.
Yes.
People got careless because if they feel like they're not going to die and they're not in the hospital, then they fine. And that's why I came forward, because there are people walking around you right now who have COVID. They're not telling you, they're not telling anybody else. And sometimes they don't even know it. And so Nicole had been my reassurance and the person that kept me from going crazy, because I knew that she had been living with it since March. But I felt I needed to say it, and I felt like this conversation, we put it off and we're trying to find out when do we go live and talk about it. But with Thanksgiving coming up, as you just said, we cannot afford to lose our elders. Like, we have got to be more vigilant. Please stay in your own homes for Thanksgiving. Stay in your own homes this year. Stay home. Do not especially go over to your elders and your grandmas and everybody. If you don't live with them, this is a holiday you have to sit out. It is very real. And Donna, my mother is like you. She suffers from asthma. And that is something that I don't want to expose my mother. I don't want my mother, we just don't know. Some of us walk around and it's fine. And then, as you said, if some of us get it and the next day we're gone. I thank God that all of us are living testimonies. You can't take that for granted. You have to know. Reverend Barbara's preached about this today. Girl. You better know.
I just did something today, because like my daughter is coming home in a few short days. And so when she comes in, we're going to have her get tested. But there are college students who are coming home. A lot of them.
And they need to go into quarantine right away. That's the other thing. When, let's just put it this way. For Chicago in particular, although we've got high instances of COVID, but they're trying to keep it from getting higher by having people coming in from out of state quarantine for 14 days. The other thing that they talked about, this statistic that they had, 1 in 15 to 18 people in Chicago has COVID. 1 in 15 has COVID. And today I was on Facebook. There was a video of this guy who traveled from the United States to Australia. These people in Australia, what they did, everybody that comes to Australia has to quarantine for 14 days. That's automatic. And let me tell you, they control the entire thing. You are flying on a particular flight. They have you socially distanced. You pay $2,100 for this quarantine. You have to pay for your own quarantine if you're going to Australia, okay? And when you get there, they pull you off this plane. They put everybody on a bus, and they have certain designated hotels that they put you in, and you have no key to your room. And there are doctors on staff at the hotels, and so there's all this stuff, and they give you meals 3 times a day. No one can come in, and you can't go out for 14 days. And so the day before you're supposed to leave, they give you your walking papers and a wristband. I was like, this is
Canada is the same way. Canada is not the same. And Jamaica just lifted there so that you wouldn't have to quarantine, but you can't leave off from the resort that you're on.
Right.
I want to say this too, as we're especially in Chicago, we don't have sunlight, and as we talked about, vitamin D is already a deficiency that we have. When people say stay in your house, don't go out, they don't mean don't go. Well, I'm going to say, I'm not speaking from an authority, place of scientific or health, but I'm going to say, don't kill yourself sitting in your house without fresh air or sunlight. Get as much as you can. Go on your front porch, go in your yard, go walk the block with your mask on, not in front of other people, but get out. And it's unfortunate that our elders in nursing homes can't really take advantage of that. But for those of us who can, do not lock yourselves inside. You have to get some fresh air. Open your windows. Get out the window. Because depression is real as well. The lack of sunlight and that effect on your body is real as well. I wanted to share comments. The thing is that this is live on my personal Facebook page, also on Moving Beyond the Blocks books and conversations page, and my YouTube channel. So there are comments that are coming in from different places. So Nikki says her son is coming home from campus, and they're providing rapid testing for him before he comes home. So that's shout out to that campus. And hopefully other campuses are doing the same, because this helps us, different communities can keep each other safe. So college community can keep home community safe, because wherever these I'm sorry, y'all, young people, wherever young people are traveling from, we got to respect them, right? They go crazy. These young people and teenagers can come back. My mom, Stephanie, says she's glad to know that you didn't go to the hospital. Donna, she could have been talking about you or me.
Yeah.
I didn't go to no hospital, but she knows not to go. I'm not going to say that to not go. What I'm going to say is that if your symptoms are not, there's nothing really that they can do for you besides the ventilator in the hospital. Everything else that they're going to do at the hospital, because there's no cure for it. Everything else you can do at home, right? You can do your steam. You should do that every day. No matter I would tell you right now, if you haven't even tested positive for COVID and nobody got COVID, I would tell you to steam your lungs now. I would tell you to take deep breaths throughout the day. As much as you can, exercise those lungs, get it in, get it out, keep going. Do some exercises that keep your heart rate up and your blood flowing. These are just things we should be doing anyway, right? But those things to help you help exercise your lungs. Somebody else said mullein is a herb that my friend drank. Absolutely. So mullein tea, tea with marshmallow leaf in it, tea with peppermint and oregano are all teas that drain you and detox you and keep your mucus levels low. Thyme, rosemary, parsley, all of those things are good to keep your mucus and to cleanse you and detox you. Dandelion, you can find dandelion tea. You can pick dandelions, not out your yard or off your block because it's lead and all types of stuff. But get to a nursery or somewhere where they are organically growing dandelions, and you can put that in. I'm going to shout her out because I do believe, y'all, that I do believe she saved my life. So I'm going to shout out Serenia MacArthur of Yaris LLC, her treatment, everything that she provided for me. I do believe that that's what kept me alive. And as women, I believe what we do impacts our families, because we're doing the cooking, we're doing whatever for our families. And by her saving my life, she helped me to provide what I needed for my daughter, who also got it. Her only symptom, and she also lost her sense of smell and taste. But after her 14 days were over, my baby started getting a very bad rash on her face. And first of all, vanity of a young girl in her face is one thing, but the rash itself is a scary looking rash. But because of Serenia's nurturing and treating me, I was able to treat my baby. I'm sorry, y'all.
That's okay. It's a lot. It's a lot.
What most people don't, the other part that people aren't connecting to this is there is a huge mental health challenge with this whole thing. Just everything around the pandemic, everything that's happened during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like, as usually probably somebody might have actually been able to come to your house down and cook for you and do this, do that, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And, Keisha, on and on and on and on and on, but you're by yourself. Like you said, Donna, you and your husband couldn't do anything for each other.
Yep.
So it can be a very taxing thing because you don't know. No. You're not certain what the outcome may be.
What the outcome may be. You hear that story about any moment it can turn. You don't know any moment. So at night you going to bed at night not knowing if you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night.
That's
If
right.
you're gonna die in your sleep, if you're gonna be gasping for air, you're breathing fine now. You don't know if 6 hours from now that's not gonna happen, because what we know is it happens that quickly. So
Keisha, I'll tell you another thing that I don't sleep at night, because just all of this stuff you all are saying with the mental health. Even when we first shut down, I had a hard time sleeping. Just last week, I was up till 6 o'clock in the morning, just sitting near the kitchen table, because and when I had that, when I was in COVID, actively in COVID, I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid to lay down. I would not lay down on my back. That was the other thing. Don't lay down on your back. If you can prop yourself up, do that. If you can sit in a recliner chair, sit in a recliner chair. Sit up as much as you can. And I'm telling you, even now, the doctor said to me the other day when I told him, I said, look, I got a problem, because I was doing video doctor's appointments, which I loved. Didn't have to go in. And he says, well, this was my doctor's associate. He said, if you have to, take some Z-Quil or some Benadryl. I said, well, the Z-Quil is out the question, because when I started taking that in the beginning, I had terrible nightmares. So I stopped taking that right away. But the Benadryl will also open you up at night, and it'll give you a resting moment. So that was what helped me. But for me to be sitting up here at all times of the night, but remember, I'm still having fatigue. So at any time during the day, I get in the bed. I have to, even if it means me going to lay down for 20, 30 minutes just to get myself back in order. I have to do that. And so that's why another reason I'm grateful that I'm working from home, and the fact that my, employer is they're okay with me having to do that. So whenever I can, and whenever I feel the need with the fatigue, I go and lay down.
Lay down.
Yep.
Shouts out to the NAP ministry, Trisha Hersey. Lay down. Lay down. If this pandemic hasn't taught us anything else, it is the importance of laying your body down to rest. I'm fatigued as well, but I've always been, since I got pregnant with my children 22 years ago. When they take a nap, I took a nap. Naps and now every day I have to take a nap at the same time that I was taking a nap. Naps save you, and don't feel beat up about it. And I hope that employers start to understand that. Don't be forcing people for 8. It's all a lie. Nothing takes 8 hours to do. Nothing. So allow people that break. Allow people time to just reset through the day. And I want to respect you all's evening and everybody else. I'm going to end by letting you all give your what you would share, the one thing you've learned that you want somebody else to know about COVID, and then we'll close out. Donna, you can go first.
The one thing that I know about COVID is that it shows its face differently for everyone, and that you cannot take one other person's experience as your own. That's what I have. Be diligent about your health.
Yeah. Go.
The one thing I want to share is that at this point, we all know that going forward, our health, building up our immune system is necessary in order to survive and to really try to save ourselves, and put ourselves on the best path to trying to be healthy, making it to 2021 and getting through until we're able to get outside to some additional sun. But I think that is the one thing that is necessary now for us to save ourselves. That's what COVID came to teach us. Save ourselves and do the right thing by the one temple that you get.
What I am as a metaphysician, what I want to say is that everything comes here to show us the path to the Most High. It comes to show us His power and sovereignty over everything. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes we start looking at Trump as this person of fear and that he controlling things. Sometimes we start looking at viruses and that is controlling things. We start looking at the the world and our jobs as if that's what's most important. And I think COVID brought us back to truth, that God is all sovereign. He's sovereign in our families. He's sovereign in our marriages. He's sovereign in our own body temples. And that is the thing that we have to honor. And that is the thing that we have to love. I wholeheartedly believe that. I think our focus was on external things that didn't matter. And we have to understand our community, our families, and ourselves. When we honor those, we honor the Most High. So
Amen.
I am imploring us all to take your health seriously. Sankofa, everything that we've ever needed, we already have. The doctors don't have it. We already got it. Our ancestors cured themselves naturally. I am not against science. I am not against medicine. It's here for a reason. But I believe that we don't have to be dependent on those things if we trust what we already have naturally. That's what the earth is here for too. The earth is also medicine. And this may be a little controversial to say this, but I'm going to say people like myself, Donna, who may be experiencing times where we have some anxiety and can't sleep at night. A good friend of the earth. You can put it in lemonade, you can put it in cookies, whatever it is. But there is a herb that you can place in these things. I ain't talking about smoking it. It's a certain strand. You can find out the different strand. And as you don't know what I'm talking about cannabis. Find the strand that helps you to relax. It's okay. Like, people can say whatever they want to say, but I found it to be a friend, and I'm not a smoker. All my friends know. I probably, if I have indulged, I would say it's only been 2 or 3 times in my entire life. But recently, sips of lemonade have helped me to just eliminate my anxiety and to sleep at night when I'm not waking up every 3 hours and sitting there and trying to battle with my head. So thank you, Donna, for sharing. Thank you
for inviting me.
Nicole, I want to thank you for being here, sharing your story and sharing your experience since you got it. You helped me to not be afraid when I did test positive. I remember my friend Nicole, my old sister, that she was doing this thing, and if she had done it, then who am I to be afraid of it?
Yeah. Can you also provide the information, Keisha, about the person that helped you with the herbs? And
I'm gonna put it right here in the wait. It might already be in here because she's been on with us so much. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna let it
Make sure you put it on your
your page.
Put it everywhere.
Let me find her actual site so I can put it up.
Maybe do a post about it. A post after this video is done that you can provide information for her, because I definitely want to put down.
I'm definitely do that. She, like I said, y'all, first of all, I just know her because she is a parent, was a parent at my children's school, and so we just developed she used to say her name was Serenia. I was like, I am not calling Serenia. My mama taught me to call my elder. So, but she's become a very good friend of mine. She is a nurse, a retired nurse practitioner. So she knows the science side and she knows nature side.
It's like another show to me that on the movie.
No,
I'm serious.
I have to say, good ideas. I have to say that Serenia has been on with us. She comes on and teaches our girls how to do bean sprouts and different things, how to heal their own bodies, how to use your mind, qigong, yoga, breathing, ho'oponopono. She does all of this. So that's her website.
Okay. Was she the one who did the chakra?
Did she do? Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And therapy. So the wood, people don't know about energetic wood, but it brings good energy. This is something that Native Americans have done. This is something that they do in Hawaii. The lava salt, the black lava salt from Hawaii, it's a detox, so it cleanses your body. So this virus is in your bloodstream. That's why I felt it traveling up, right? That's why we feel it on different parts and in our bones, because it's going
through the bloodstream.
it's going through your bloodstream, and your blood goes up, down, and around, right? So that's how this thing is traveling through our bodies. Y'all, I don't want to keep y'all. I want to thank everybody tuned in. Love, I see you. Nikki, I thank you for sharing about your baby. Vanita, thank you for tuning in. My mom, Stephanie, thank you. Octavia, Sean, Ray, thank you for tuning in. All of y'all who I'm sorry I don't see you, but I'm sure we'll see how many people have been watching this, and I know it's well over 200 at this point. Thank you all. I'm sorry, over 100 at this point. Thank you all. And I continue to send healing vibes and love to you and your families, Donna and Nicole, that we all will be able to give this testimony again. Hopefully the city and the state will start convening these kind of, as they call these, when they go to the Senate, these summits, where they pull in stories. And if you don't know your blood type, please find out the blood type. Get everything that you need, whether you're deficient in any vitamins. And if you're Black, you should just take for granted you're deficient in vitamin D. We don't get enough sunlight, first of all, in Chicago or North America. And we don't get enough of the vegetables that have it. We don't have natural food sources. That's all, y'all. If you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, celebrate on Thursday with the people in your homes. Please, if we celebrate with the people in our homes this holiday, perhaps by the next holiday, we will be able to be with our families. Thank y'all all. Remember to move beyond any block starts where? In our minds. All right, everybody.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
God bless everyone.
Yes. So again, you all, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, giving us your time on this evening. And Nicole put something out there, so maybe, who knows, that may happen. So I want to say thank you all, and bye-bye.